They laughed, not quietly, not politely, but loud enough for the chandeliers to tremble. If you've ever been judged in a second, dismissed before you could even speak, then stay with this story till the very end, because what happened next didn't just silence a room, it changed a life. And if stories like this move you, don't forget to like and subscribe, because sometimes, all it takes is one moment to remind us who we really are. Outside the grand concert hall, where luxury cars lined up like a parade of success, stood a boy no one noticed until they did. His name was Ayaan. His clothes were worn, the kind that told stories of struggle without needing words. His shoes were uneven, his sleeves slightly torn, and his hair, it looked like life had been too busy to care about it. But in his hands, carefully held like something sacred, was an old guitar, scratched, faded, but alive. Inside, the city's most prestigious orchestra was about to perform. Tickets cost more than what Ayaan's family earned in months. The audience was filled with elegance, silk dresses, polished shoes, expensive watches ticking in perfect rhythm. Ayaan stepped forward. The guards stopped him instantly. "Back off, kid. This isn't for you." But he didn't move. His fingers tightened around the guitar. I just want to play," he said softly. They laughed. Not cruelly at first, just disbelief. Then louder. "Play? Here? This is $1 million orchestra, not a street corner." A few people nearby turned to look. Some smirked. Others shook their heads. One man whispered, "These kids have no sense of reality." But Ayaan stood still. Because this wasn't just a building to him. It was a dream. Every night, from the alley behind the hall, he used to sit and listen. The music would escape through the walls, violin, piano, cello, and he would close his eyes, imagining himself among them. He didn't have teachers. He didn't have lessons. But he had ears that listened, and a heart that understood. "Please," he said again, quieter this time. The guard sighed, already irritated. "Go home, kid." And maybe that would have been the end. Maybe he would have turned around like he had 100 times before. But something was different that night. Maybe it was the way the music inside paused for a moment. Maybe it was the weight of every rejection he had ever felt. Or maybe, it was simply time. Because before anyone could stop him, Ayaan stepped past the guard. Gasps. Laughter again. What is he doing? Someone get him out. But he kept walking. Straight toward the stage. The orchestra members froze, confused. The conductor lowered his baton, irritation rising on his face. "Excuse me? This is a private." Ayaan didn't speak. He simply sat down at the edge of the stage. And began to play. At first, no one took it seriously. A few chuckles. A few annoyed sighs. But then, something shifted. The first note wasn't perfect. It was raw. Honest. It didn't sound like it came from training, it sounded like it came from living. The second note followed, then the third, and suddenly, the room felt different. The laughter stopped. Because what they were hearing wasn't just music. It was pain. It was hope. It was every cold night, every empty plate, every moment of being invisible woven into melody. The orchestra members exchanged glances. The conductor slowly raised his head again, but this time, not in anger. In disbelief. Ayaan's fingers moved with a strange, beautiful confidence. Not polished, but powerful. Not perfect, but real. And then something incredible happened. One violinist quietly lifted her instrument and joined him. Softly. Carefully. As if afraid to break the magic. Then a cello. Then another violin. The conductor didn't stop them. Because he understood something in that moment. This wasn't interruption. This was transformation. The $1 million orchestra began to follow the boy in rags. Ayaan didn't look up. He didn't need to. For the first time in his life, he wasn't being watched. He was being heard. The music grew layer by layer, instrument by instrument, until the entire hall was filled with something no one had planned, no one had rehearsed. And when the final note rang through the air, silence. Not awkward silence. Not confused silence. But the kind that holds meaning. The kind that changes people. And then, applause. Not polite. Not controlled. But thunderous. People stood. Some with tears in their eyes. The same people who had laughed were now clapping harder than anyone else. The conductor walked slowly toward Ayaan. For a moment, no one breathed. Then he said something simple. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Ayaan looked down at his guitar. "Out there," he said. That night changed everything. Not because Ayaan became famous overnight. Not because the world suddenly became fair. But because one room, one moment, proved something powerful. Talent doesn't wear expensive clothes. Dreams don't need permission. And sometimes, the people we overlook carry the loudest music inside them. So the next time you see someone being laughed at, remember this story. And if you've ever been that person, don't stop. Because one day, your moment will come. And when it does, the same world that doubted you will fall silent just to hear you play. Got it? You want it even more powerful, longer, and optimized for a full 11:30 YouTube story with strong emotional pull plus engagement hooks. Here's an upgraded cinematic version. Backhand index pointing down. They laughed at him, not because he said something funny, but because he existed in a place they believed he didn't belong. If you've ever been ignored, judged, or made to feel small, stay with me. Because what this boy did next didn't just silence a room, it rewrote how people see greatness. And before we begin, take 1 second, hit like, subscribe, and join this journey, because stories like this don't just entertain, they remind you who you are. The night was cold, but the city was glowing. Luxury cars lined up outside the grand concert hall like a display of power. Inside, chandeliers shimmered like stars, and the richest people in the city filled velvet seats, dressed in elegance, carrying the quiet confidence of privilege. Tonight wasn't just any performance. It was the annual orchestral gala, the kind where tickets cost more than most people earned in months. And just outside those golden doors stood a boy no one invited. His name was Ayaan. He looked out of place, not just a little, but painfully obvious. His shirt was faded, his sleeves slightly torn. His jeans had been worn thin by time, and his shoes, they told a story of long walks and longer struggles. But in his hands was something he held like treasure. An old guitar. Scratched. Faded. Imperfect. Just like him. But if you looked closer, you'd see something different. His grip wasn't weak. His eyes weren't uncertain. He wasn't there to beg. He was there to be heard. Ayaan stepped forward toward the entrance. The guard barely looked at him before blocking his way. "Stop right there." Ayaan swallowed, his voice quiet but steady. "I just want to go inside. I want to play." For a second, there was silence. Then, laughter. Not just from the guard, but from a couple walking past. The man smirked. The woman shook her head. "Play," the guard repeated. "Kid, do you even know what's happening in there?" Ayaan nodded. "Yes. It's $1 million orchestra," the guard said, stepping closer. "People train their whole lives to stand on that stage." Ayaan tightened his hold on the guitar. "I know." Another laugh. "Then you should also know, you don't belong here." Those words hit harder than anything. Not because they were new, but because they were familiar. Ayaan had heard them his whole life. From teachers who said he wouldn't make it. From people who said music wasn't for kids like him. From a world that decided his worth before he ever got a chance to prove it. But tonight, he didn't step back. Because tonight wasn't just about entering a building. It was about breaking a wall. "I just need one chance," he said. The guard shook his head. "Go home." And for a moment, it looked like Ayaan might. His eyes dropped. His shoulders slightly fell. The world had pushed him back again. But then, from inside the hall, music stopped. Just for a second. Ayaan looked up. And something inside him changed. Before anyone could react, he moved. Past the guard. Through the door. Into a world that had no place for him. Gasps filled the air almost instantly. People turned. Confusion. Annoyance. Disgust. Who let him in? What is this? Security. But Ayaan didn't stop. Step by step, heart pounding, he walked down the aisle. Hundreds of eyes followed him. Judging. Questioning. Dismissing. But for the first time in his life, he didn't look down. Because he wasn't walking toward people. He was walking toward his dream. On stage, the orchestra froze. The conductor lowered his baton, clearly irritated. This is a private event. But Ayaan had already reached the stage. He sat down. Right at the edge. No permission. No introduction. Just courage. The audience began to murmur louder. Some laughed again. Others looked offended. This is embarrassing. Someone remove him. But then, Ayaan placed his fingers on the strings. And played. The first note. Wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. It wasn't trained. It was real. And somehow, that made it powerful. The second note came. Then another. And slowly, something impossible began to happen. The room got quiet. Not because they were impressed, but because they were confused. This wasn't supposed to sound like this. This boy wasn't supposed to play like this. Every note carried something deeper than technique. Struggle. Loneliness. Dreams that refused to die. It was music you didn't just hear. It was music you felt. The laughter disappeared. The whispers faded. Even the conductor stopped moving. Because what stood in front of them wasn't a mistake. It was truth.